This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us this evening for the learning of Teres Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. We thank Rabbi Landau. We begin B'Reshus Modas, Rabbi Landau. We thank Rabbi Landau for accommodating us and giving us another venue this evening while the main shul is being used. Always helping us out over here. And tonight we have three sponsors in the order of how they were received. And we're sponsored first by Binyamin and Yocheved Goodman in honor of the birth of their granddaughter Rivka Bracha, to their children Ephraim and Rachel Clipper. We hope that Rivka Bracha should grow up. They should be Megadol her, L'ben Torah, L'chuppah, L'maisim Tovim. The shir is also sponsored by the Tadi family in loving memory of Yisrael ben Aharon, Yoshua Mordechai ben Yisrael Yitzchak, and Chani Yerachmiel ben Menachem Mendel. The neshama should have an aliyah. They should have a lichtige Gan Eden. There should be a Melz Yosher for their Litza Yosher for their family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. Please don't lean on the table. Please don't lean on the table. Thank you. That table's fine.
No, just make sure not touching.
And we're learning also, sponsored by Yaakov and Sarah Walensky. They want to support the share, and with the tefillah that they find what they have lost. We'll also learn for the Refuah Shalem of Shenu Shlema Bas Betya and Mordechai ben Bracha, that they should have a Refuah Shalema B'Seich Sha'achila Yisrael. We learn with the tefillah that all those that have been touched by the dread machla, known as Yana Machla, other related diseases, should have a refuah shalema b'seich shachal Yisrael. All of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. All those that are waiting their shidduch should find their shidduch quickly and easily. All those that are waiting children should be blessed with Zara Chaya v'Kayama, healthy mommy, healthy baby. We should have parnasa b'revach v'chavod, and lange gesunte zisa shalom bayis. We have a problem in that we don't have any chairs. So maybe pick up some chairs from over there.
Yeah, let's move those chairs here.
Yeah. So that when people come into the...
Go. You stand over here and I'll pass them.
Thank you very much. We lost one person already, so there was no chairs. There we go. Vayomer Moav el Ziknei Midyan, and Moav spoke to the elders of Midyan. These are strange friends. So Rashi says, Omar Roya Moav lital eitzel Midyan. What did Moav see to take counsel with Midyan? What's this? So Rashi tells us an interesting thing. Kevan shiro es Yisrael noitzkin shaloi keminig ha'olam. They saw that Klal Yisrael was having incredible victories. 9 million Egyptians in 4 hours. They wiped out Mitzrayim. When they saw they were having such unusual success, Amru, they said, Manhigim shel elu b'minyan niskanu. Moshe Rabbeinu, from the age of 20 till the age of 80, was in Midian. So in Midian were his formative years. Nishal mehem mami dosai. Let's find out from Midian what's he all about. You know, you have to find out what he's all about. Amru lahem. So Midian gave a very good snapshot of Moshe Rabbeinu. Ein koicha yela befiv. His strength is in his mouth. Amru, they said, Af anu navay aleim ba'adam shekoicha befiv. So we'll do battle with another man, Bilam, whose power is in his mouth. So first of all, Rav Shein in his Birchas Ish asks a very simple question. I'll be honest with you, it never bothered me, this question, but it's a very simple question. If you were to ask someone about Moshe, would you ask Midian or would you ask Mitzrayim? I mean, where did Moshe Rabbeinu do all the fireworks? He did all the fireworks in Mitzrayim. The Makkahs were in Mitzrayim. You know, he went to Paro in Mitzrayim. He had the Yitzias Mitzrayim taking out millions of people. And then Kriyas Yamsuf was with the Mitzrayim. I mean, if anybody knew him, it was the Mitzrayim. Why didn't he ask the Mitzrayim? Why did he ask Midian? So Rav Shein gives a very interesting answer. Rav Shein said people don't ask people when they know they're going to hear what they don't want to hear. They knew that Mitzrayim would say, stay away from Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what Mitzrayim would have said. It says, don't mess with Moshe. You know, they don't want to hear that. People don't ask when they know that they're not going to hear what they want to hear. It's a very big say. Say sometimes, why do you ask him? Why do you ask, you know, the people that are fakayft with anti-vaccinations? So why don't they go around and speak to the biggest doctors? People that know from years and studied for years. They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. So they'll go online, they'll read something online, they'll speak to this person that's charismatic and that person that's charismatic. I mean, it's not a big conspiracy. There are doctors that their whole mahus is they want to help people, and they're fatif dreisha beruba. It's like saying, you know, you want a psak, go to this charismatic fellow. Don't go to a rabbi. Whoever heard of one? You want to know if somebody should eat Yom Kippur, who are you going to go to? You're going to go ask a doctor. You have to go to a mumcha. So they didn't want to speak to the mitzvah. So, but what did Midian say? Ein koicha yela befiv. The strength is in the mouth. And later on in Parshas Matas, next week's Parsha, it says, "Ves Bilam ben Ba'ar hargu b'charev." Bilam ben Ba'ar was killed by the sword. Rashi says, "Hu ba'al Yisrael." He attacked Klal Yisrael. V'hichnif u'nosai b'emunasam, and he switched his craft for their craft because Bilam is a guy. Guy is Yadayim Yadei Esav, but he usurped our craft because our craft she'ein noishim ela b'fiyah, because we're only saved with our mouths. And Rashi says, "V'al yedei tefilo b'kosha," through prayer and requests. Right? That's what we say. Rashi says elsewhere, "Einum nosan shalelu ela b'feh." Our umnus, some people, they're warriors, gladiators. Einum nosan shalelu ela b'feh. Our talent, our expertise is with the mouth. I mean, the IDF, you know, that's a good ishtadlus. But that's not our expertise. Our expertise is with the mouth. It says, Eilav Arechev, Eilav Asusim. We say it every day in Lamatzeach. Eilav Arechev, Eilav Asusim. These come with their chariots. These come with their horses. V'anachnu b'shem Hashem Elokeinu nazki. Hakol kol Yaakov. Our talent is the curl. Now, since we hear that our umnus is the mouth, So what does it mean, an umnus? So for example, if let's say your umnus is electrician. Electrician, you have to know there's different voltages. You have to know where to put the wires. You have to know how much each socket can take. You have to know when you need to put in heavy duty voltage. You have to know where you're allowed to run a wire, where it's safe to run a wire. You have to, there's so many things, it's a whole umnus. A plumber has to know, it's a whole umnus. How do you run the plumbing? Where do you put a vent? It's a whole umnus. A tailor, it's all kinds of different stitches. You have to know how to conceal a stitch. You have to know, what kind of thread to use. Yeah, it's a whole umnus. And then, of course, the more complicated, a doctor has to study for years. If our national umnus, ein umnus shel elu ela b'feh, our national umnus is peh. Now you'll say, peh is learning. But here, Rashi zooms in al yedei tfilo bakasha, and you have to know that when Midian said that our umnus, Moshe Rabbeinu, his koicha was bepeh, he wasn't talking about learning. They didn't see Moshe Rabbeinu learning. It was before Matan Torah. He was a shepherd, but they saw him praying. Prayer is an umnus. So therefore, this is going to be a major part of this shir. I'm going to share with you 16 steps to professional prayer. 16, thank you. 16 steps. That means to be an uman, if we want to succeed with our mouths, and after all, a person that prays can make a tremendous difference in one's life. It's not Hashem listens to everything. Kikel shameh tfilas kol pam Yisrael b'rachamin, and ein tfilasei chazeres reikam. So if a person prays properly, it will change their lives. So the first thing, which I've spoken about many times in this shir, is lasos eis ratzon l'tfilosein, to carve out that our prayer should be at a time of favor. Children know that if mommy and daddy are upset, it's not the right time to ask them for something. If they want to go on a trip, if they want to ask if they could get a phone, you have to know when to ask. I remember my father, Olav Shalom, he worked in a big leather factory, Carter's Leather Goods, in Manhattan. And he had 80 people under him, the lowest of the low, minimum wage workers. And Monday was always a nightmarish day for him, because the people came in after the weekend, they were drunk, and it was a nightmare. So Monday night he came home wiped out. We knew if we wanted to ask for something, Monday night was the worst time. It was the worst time. But on the other hand, there's an eis ratzon. So we're taught to carve out, a first step of tefillah is to carve out for ourselves an eis ratzon. So for example, it says, Ani b'tzedek echad zepanecha, I with charity see your face. It says after doing the mitzvah of tzedakah, so Hashem looks at us more favorably. So I keep in my tefillin bag a Reb Meir Balanes pushka. Now most of the times if you're davening in a busy shul, you don't need to keep a pushka. There's people unfortunately coming around by the dozen. But sometimes you're davening somewhere where there aren't people. So then you put a coin in the Rameh Balanes Pushka, and then you fulfill Ani B'Tzedek Echaz Apanecha, because we approach Hashem, as we'll talk about later, like an Oni Amazir al Psachim, so it's Mida Keneged Mida. We approach Hashem like a beggar. If we take care of a beggar, then Hashem will take care of us. But there are other ways to carve an Eis Ratzon. A woman that lights the candles Friday and does her special mitzvah, the covered Shabbos, Chava put out the light of the world, so she's igniting the light of the world. She's repairing the original sin. So that's an Eis Ratzon. She could daven that her husband should only have Eisva. She had children, Talmidei Chachamim. Should be peace in her home. You get an Aliyah, and you give covet to the Torah Barabim. Covet HaTorah is greater than Limud HaTorah, then you can make a Mishabeira. Said over from Rav Zilberstein, if a person avoids looking at an immodest woman in the street, at that moment you fulfill Oisesuru Acharei Levavchem Acharei Neichem. So you could ask Eis Ratzon. If it's Friday afternoon, and something is very upsetting to you, and instead of screaming out your kovish, your anger, that's an Eis Ratzon. You had a delicious piece of gossip to share with your spouse, and you said, I'm not doing it because it's Lashon Hara. She would have liked it. He would have liked it. Wow, that's a good scoop. Thank you for telling me. Could curry favor with a spouse, and you held back because it's Lashon Hara. That's an Eis Ratzon. So that's number one. Make an Eis Ratzon. Number two, to have in mind to be Saimech Geula L'Tfilah. Say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael, and then we say Ashmona Esrei, both in the morning and in the evening. Is Hashkivenu Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen Va'amen is Kigula Arichta. Right? To be Saimech Geula L'Tfilah makes our tefillah more effective. And the Ran explains that this is because we say that just like Hashem, you redeemed Yisrael in Mitzrayim because of tefillah. It says, "Vatal Shavosam Elokim Mino Avoda," and therefore Hashem redeemed us. So you should do it again, and because of our tefillah, you should accede to our requests. So to be Saimech Geula L'Tfilah and have in mind that Hashem, you should do like you did in Mitzrayim, makes our tefillah more effective. Number three, whoever prays for their friend and they need it also, they're answered first. Do not make the mistake of davening only for yourself. That's why our tefillahs are in majority worded b'lashon rabim. Slach lanu, rifa'enu, Shma Koleinu. So therefore, don't just daven when you say Rifa'enu for your health. You could start small. Start small. You need another chair. You got one? Good. Don't just daven for your health. Start small. Daven for your spouse. Never should a Shemona Esrei go without davening for a spouse. That's not being a loyal husband or wife if you don't daven for your mate. That's not love. So every Rifa'enu, every Atachayne Lodam Das, very important Atachayne. Today there's a lot of instances of early dementia. People already in their 50s. So a person has to daven Atachayne Lodam Das with a lot of kavanah. We should have, for a long life, our full senses. Also, when we say the bracha v'anoisen lasech v'vina, la'afnim me'yom v'loila, we're thanking Hashem for our minds. But don't daven just for yourself. You come into a big shul and you say Shema Kaleinu. Have in mind, everybody, I think in my Shema Esrei, everybody in the shul needs something. Hashem, please give them their needs. Shema Kaleinu. I'm being mispal bad chaveira. And kol mispal bad chaveira v'tzarech lo yisedavu nenetchilu. We learned that out from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, when Avimelech abducted Sarah, nobody had children. So Hashem said, return his wife, and he'll pray for you, because Navihu. And Avraham Avinu prayed that they should have children. And then, sorry, may not a child. So this is a mechanism of prayer. There's a chair here. A mechanism of prayer Watch, be careful. The camera's there. Don't touch the table. A mechanism of prayer is to daven. Don't just daven for your daughter for shidduchim. Daven for everybody's daughters for shidduchim. Don't just daven for your children to have children. Daven for everybody that they should have children. That's a very important umnus of prayer. Daven with a guf naki. Daven with a clean body. People, it says that when you daven, you should try that you shouldn't have waste in your body. If a person goes and takes a sonogram, they'll see that sometimes there's waste all over the body. Try to daven with a clean body. Now, but at least daven that there shouldn't be soya on the body. Especially ba'osa makom, b'piyat tabas. A person has to be careful with that. A person has to use his wipes. A person has to make sure that the body, because otherwise it's very hard. A person is saying the Shem Hashem in a way that's disrespectful, and he wants Hashem to answer him. Also, if possible, a person should rinse their mouth, as it's brought down in halacha, before davening, so that when we say Hashem's name, it should be done without the ririn shebepeh. That also makes our davening more effective. Then, on top of that, to make effort, the Yesod V'Shorish HaAvodah says that one should raise their voice slightly when they say Hashem's name. This takes training. It takes getting used to. But if a person, every time they daven, every time they say Hashem's name, they say, why don't you bring in some more chairs from the shul? Bring in more chairs. If every time they say Hashem's name, they raise their voice a little bit, so that causes that it reminds a person to have kavanah to Hashem, special kavanah. Now, Rapam would also suggest to hold the finger on the place. He said if you hold your finger on the place in the siddur, it's easier to have kavanah. I would add that the Shalah HaKadosh cited in the Mishnah Brura says that when possible, when we daven loud, we have more kavanah. That's why if you bench out loud, you certainly have more kavanah, because a curl is ma'ayir kavanah. Curl awakens the kavanah. Thank you. Number 7. to have a mouth that's not a kateger, that's not a prosecutor. Because ein kateger nasa saneger. I told you this many times. It says, Imru lefanai malchios zimchroinos v'shayfos. On Rosh Hashanah, say malchios k'dei shetamlichuni aleichem. Say zichroinos sheyalu zichronechem lefanai l'toiva. That I should remember you for the good. Ubameh b'shayfer. So the Chassam Sofer says, I don't understand, we're in shul davening 8 hours on Rosh Hashanah, and we say, how is Hashem going to remember us with shayfer? What's our davening? Chop liver? But the Chassam Sofer says that a lot of times a person uses his mouth, he screams at his wife, at her husband, disrespectful to parents, speaks during davening, says lashon hara, lies. If a person uses their mouth in such a way, ain't kateger nasa saneger. You need the pure peel of the shofar, the pure shofar which is never used for sin, to defend us. So therefore, if a person, this is part of the umnus of tefillah, part of the umnus of tefillah is that a person uses one's mouth clean. That means not to lie. Now that in itself takes a lot of work. People invariably tell over stories and they're not very careful with being loyal to the truth. A lot of times they have grandiose roles in the story. Number two, people, they tell stories. And if they later on need to explain something away, so they, wife says, why were you late? So what's he going to tell her? I was late because I was schmoozing with my friend and I decided to ditch you. I knew you had supper and the children were waiting. It's embarrassing. So he says he missed the bus. But he didn't miss the bus. People want to have good tefillah. They can't lie. They can't cause other people pain with Oino Astavarim. Can't hurt people's feelings. And you can't gossip. You can't speak Lashon Hara. Or Rechilas. You can't reveal other people's secrets. I only told my best friend. And V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe Leimar, V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe Leimar. And V'yidaber Leimar is only because Hashem said to say it. Otherwise, you can't say it. You're going to reveal people's secrets, and then you want your tefillah to be effective? All of these things don't work. They don't work. This is all part of the umnus of tefillah, and it's the way. And of course, somebody gets angry and speaks with anger and screams. And he wants then that Hashem should listen to his mouth. This is the way Manchester Rosh Hashiva, Rav Segel, learns that when it says before Baruch She'amar Hareini Mezamen Es Pel Oidos Ulahalal Shabeach Es Bayri, how do you get ready the mouth? You get ready the mouth by not doing wrong things with it. And this fits in very good with the Gemara in Chulin. Ma'um nosoi shel adam ba'olam hazeh. What's a person's profession? Now we already said our profession is the mouth. Einum nosoi shel eilo b'feh. And the Gemara in Chulin says, Ma'am nosoi shel adam ba'olam hazeh yasa atzma ke'ilim. Know how to keep your mouth shut. We're going to keep your mouth shut. So you don't speak Lashon Hara, you don't speak in davening, you don't hurt people's feelings, you don't lie, you don't use nuvel peh. Then Hashem says, this person, I want to hear what he has to say. The ninth step, something that you have to know. It's a Gemara in Mesechtas Kala Rabasi. It's a gematria from Mesechtas Kala Rabasi. it says that if a person is mevakei shalom, if he seeks peace, ein tfilasai chayzeres reika. His tefillas don't get passed up. His tefillas are accepted. And it says a gematria. Shaveya is begematria shalom. Shaveya is 376 and shalom is 376. Is it any wonder that when we look for an ambassador to Dam for the Amid, we look for somebody that's ma'urav im abriyas, that gets along with everyone? Because if it's a person of peace, then his tefillas are not going to be disregarded by Hashem. It's a very, wow. Say to yourself, wow, I made peace with my wife. I made peace with my husband. Hashem is going to be proud of me. He's not going to look away from my tefillas. Big thing. Now, by the way, making peace means making concessions, compromising. It doesn't mean not acting like a mensch. Making peace means that somebody bends to make peace. Number 8, actually it's number 9, is to give a reason to Hashem to fulfill our requests. That's a smart way to daven. Hashem, I want to make a good parnas. Hashem says, doesn't everybody? Why do you want to make a good parnas? Why? I want to make a good parnasa so that I should be able to be mekayim v'simach esishtay. I should be able to learn without worrying all the time how I'm going to pay everything. I should be able to send my children to the best schools. Oh, now you're talking. Hashem wants to hear. And don't say Hashem knows. Part of the avodah of tefillah is expressing that's the avodah of tefillah. Hashem knows everything. Now this idea, the Gedolei Admairim, I've said this before, especially before Pesach, Gedolei Admairim say that when it says in the Haggadah, before Manishtana, it says Kana ben Shoyam. Now, unless you just came from Africa, you know that the son asks by Manishtana. I mean, what is it for a beginner? It says in every ayah, Kana ben Shoyam. So the Gedolei Admairim say it means Kana ben Shoyam. Here is a good place to ask for his son. Before Manishtana, you say, Hashem, give me a son that I can be Mekayim the mitzvah of Sipa Yetzias Mitzrayim. That I can be Mekayim Vigat to Levincha. That I have somebody to ask Manishtana. And even though a girl could ask too, but girls don't have Aseba, and girls weren't threatened with being thrown into the water like boys. So first, it's a mitzvah Vigat to Levincha. It's a mitzvah to girls too. But Kana ben Shoyam. So that's an example. So whatever we ask for, a person, let's say for example, a person wants better health. Hashem, give me better health. So he says, Hashem, if you give me better health, I'll be able to daven better. I'll be better to my spouse. I'm cranky, not feeling well. I'll do more shalom bayis. That's Kana ben Shoyam. Number 10, a person should have a makam kavua for their davening. Now, the Be'er Heitiv in Shulchan Aruch says that this is true af b'beisai, even in one's house. A person, of course, should have it in shul, but even in one's house. And this is being a Talmud of Avram Avinu. Gemara says that you're considered a Talmud of Avram Avinu because it says, Vayashkem Avram b'boker, Avram got up in the morning, El Hamokam Asher Omad Sham Es Pnei Hashem, and he went to the same place where he stood before to face Hashem. When you daven in the Mokum Kavua, that place, first of all, our tefillas are doimel l'mizbeach, doimel l'karbanos, similar to karbanos, and the carbon is offered on a mizbeach that had a fixed place. So since our tefillah is like karbanos, we do it all the time in a fixed place. Also, when you daven in the same place, you're less likely to get distracted from what is going around, because it's the place you always know. You daven in a different place. Oh, let's see look at this roof. The walls are interesting. Yeah. They didn't paint it. They didn't put on paneling. Interesting floor here. Oh, there's a socket. Oh, why aren't the plugs over there? It's amazing that a person gets distracted in a new place. If you daven in the same place, you don't get distracted. You're not mavulbal. Also, when you daven in the same place, that place is saturated by all the other tefillas that you daven there. So a person should, again, this is another step to daven in the Mokum Kavua. Now, once I'm talking about a Mokum, is also to daven in holy places. A person goes to Eretz Yisrael, they should certainly go to daven as close as they can to the Mokum HaMikdash. Daven in holy places, you daven near a tzaddik. It says that a tzaddik pulls up all the tefillas that are around him. So you have an opportunity to daven where a tzaddik is davening, that affects your tefillah. Now, I remember when I was in yeshiva, and Rav Moshe came to daven with us, I remember that by 4 o'clock in the morning, there were a lot of people in the Beis Medrash. Why? Because it says if you're Asara Rishonim, if you're from the 10 first ones, Noitel Schar Kula, you take everybody's schar. And since Rav Moshe was there, who wouldn't want to take Rav Moshe's schar? So everybody tried to be from the Asara Rishonis, from the 10 first ones. You daven with a tzaddik, let's say you go to Eretz Yisrael, and you daven in the same minyan as Rav Kanievsky. Imagine you go and you daven with Rav Kanievsky, and you're one of the Asar Rishonim, you're going to get Rav Kanievsky's car. You're going to get everybody there. So that's also an eitzah. Now, of course, one should try as often as possible to daven in a minyan. You see, Hashem, there's different levels of acceptance of Hashem, of our tefillas. Now, Hashem is Shemea Tefillas Kol Peh, but sometimes He doesn't give us the special attention. But you see, there's two psukim. There's one pasuk that says, Dirshu Hashem b'matzai. Seek out Hashem when He could be found. But there's another pasuk that says, Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elav. Whenever we call, He answers. So the Gemara asks, it's a stira. Dirshu Hashem b'matzai is doing Aseres Yemei Tshuva, because Aseres Yemei Tshuva, that's when Hashem could be found. But asks the Gemara, but it says, Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elav. He always listens to us. So the Gemara says, Kan b'yachid, kan b'minyan. B'yachid, an individual, you could only be guaranteed on Aseres Yemei Tshuva. But if you daven in a minyan, Hashem is always listening. Always listening. So a person should know that the tefillas is much more effective when they daven the minyan. The next thing is to try to attach yourself to the tzibur. Now, I told you that you shouldn't only daven for yourself, But then there's an idea to attach yourself to a tzibur. You're in a tzibur, and you say, Hashem, help all of us that we should be matzliach. You're attaching yourself to a tzibur. When you do that, your tefillos are much less likely to be rejected. There's two psukim that say that. The first pasuk is a very familiar pasuk. Padoi b'shalom nafshi ki barabim hayu imadi. Redeem in peace my soul because many are with me. There's another pasuk. The pasuk says, another very important pasuk. The pasuk says, Hein kel kabir lo yimas. Hashem doesn't detest the mighty. The Gemara Brachos brings down these two psukim. So besides the fact that it says, Al tifresh min hatzibur, when a person davens, mamish, merging himself with the tzibur, Hashem can't reject the prayer. So here you are, it's a summer day, you're planning to go swimming. Hashem help, everyone should be safe swimming today. Everyone should be safe. That's davening for everyone. Padoi b'shalom nafshi ki barabim, your visiting day. And you're returning home. Thousands of Yidden are returning home. On the Thruway, on the Palisades, on the 17. Thousands of Yidden are turning around. You don't say, let me have a safe trip. I shouldn't fall asleep. I shouldn't have traffic. You say, let the thousands of Yidden traveling on visiting day get home safely. Ooh, Kadoi b'shalom nafshi ki barabim hayimadi. That makes our tefillos a lot. You see, all of this is an umnus. It's a professional way to daven. The next step, and this takes training, is to daven many times for what we need. Not once. Sometimes the person says, okay, I davened a good davening for my daughter, she should find the shidduch. I let Hashem know. It's not enough. For a shidduch, Leah davened until her eyelashes came out. Einei Leah Rakos. To enter into Eretz Yisrael, we're going to learn V'eschanan el Hashem. The gematria of V'eschanan is 515. He davened 515 times. And he would have davened more. And he would have got in. But the Rabban Shalom stopped him. Rav Loch, Al Taisif. I want you to know this is counterintuitive. Because a person says, I asked Hashem. I don't want to be a nudge. I don't like when people nudge me. And maybe with me, it makes sense for somebody to ask me more than once because maybe I forgot. But ain't shikol lifnei kisei kvodecha. Hashem doesn't forget. I asked him once. He's not going to forget. I don't want to be a nudge. It's not nice to be a nudge with Hashem. But the Farish Gemara not that way. Gemara says, Mesachtes Brachos, what should a person do if he davens and he's not answered? Let's say, for example, he's not getting along with his friend. And he davens, Hashem, help me that we should make friends again. It's not working. So the Gemara says, Ma yasa adam. What should a person do if he davens and he's not answered? Yalzor v'yispalel. He should daven again. Shenemar kavei el Hashem. Hope to Hashem. Chazak v'yameitz l'becha. Take courage. Be strong. V'kavei el Hashem. And hope again. So an umnus of prayer, here's a person, he says, my shalom bayis, le'aleinu, is no good. Yeah, I daven. Do you daven 3 times a day? Do you daven 3 times a day in Sim Shalom? Do you daven 3 times a day in Rafa'enu? A Refuas HaNefesh. Because the person doesn't have Shalom Bayis, he's all gegridged. His Nefesh is not at peace. Rafa'enu Hashem. Refuas HaNefesh. You daven 3 times a day? Every day? That's an umnus. multiple tefillas. Why were our imois akarais? Because the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted a tefillah. So Sarah Imeinu prayed for 90 years to have children. It says, Mernei Shemisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tefillos, and they davened many times. It's an umnus. The next step, wow. The next step, it's okay. The next step, thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. The next step is how we ask. Now, a person that says, Hashem, it's coming to me, that's not the way to daven. If anybody could have talked that way, it's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, Hashem, I did the biggest Hatzalah call in the world. I saved everybody from Mitzrayim. I went 40 days, 40 nights, several times without eating. I took care of your people even though I'd Matas Galuni. Come on, Hashem. That's not the way Moshe Rabbeinu davened. V'eschanan el Hashem. Medrash says is 10 lashonos of tefillah, and the highest lashon is v'eschanan. It means chinam. Give it to me although I don't deserve it. That's the way to daven. The way to daven, as it says in Shulchan Aruch, is ka'ani hamalzer ala psach. It's like a beggar. Kedalim u'chirashim dafaknu dasecha. Like the needy and the poor, we banged on your door. And Rav Shvadron says, an ani, if he bangs on the door, the person will get very upset. You got to come meekly, not bang. But he says, if an ani didn't have a drink for 3 days, then he bangs. We're desperate. But a person, the stature, the posture, the best posture of tefillah is not from a position of, you know who I am? Hashem, don't you think I deserve it? Moshe Rabbeinu could have said that. V'eschana. Leiv nishbar v'nitke alikim lo yisivzeh. A heart that's broken, that feels despised, Hashem does not reject. Tefillah la'ani ki yataf, the prayer of a poor when he feels faint. Shah malois mi mamakim krosicha Hashem. I call you from down low. As a matter of fact, if you go to Rav Heinemann Shul in Baltimore, you'll see that when you go to daven, there's a step down. Take a step down to stand by the Amud. That's based on the Gemara. The Gemara says, Hayoyreid lifnei ateva. You go down to daven. The position of from lower. Ein gavos lifnei hamokam. We don't come and say, come on, Rabbi Nishalaylam, it's me and you. Come on, you know I am. That's not the way to daven. That's not the umnus. Now I'll tell you another thing, and that is, and this is a big one. You know, we learn our davening from malachim, from angels. We say in Kedusha, Nikadesha Shimcha Ba'olam, we sanctify your name in this world, Keshem Shemakdishim Ha'yisoi B'Shmei Mora. The way they sanctify you above. Right? They call to one another, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. So we parallel our davening after the malachim. We say that also in Birchas Kriya Shema in the morning, right? The chulam paiskim espiyah mikdusha v'tara. They open up their mouth with holiness and purity. we say v'noisnim rishus elazeh. They say after you. La'akdish li yitzra menachas ruach uvesafa v'rura uvenima. And yet, we can transcend the angels. If we're an uman with our mouth, we can transcend the angels. What do I mean? You know, there's a very perplexing Rashi. When Yaakov had the match with the Malach, so it says that afterwards the Malach told Yaakov, Shalcheni, send me away, ki Allah hashachar, because it's already dawn. So what? The Rashi adds, V'tzorech ani loimer shira, and I need to say song. Now I always found that Rashi very confusing, because I know if my children say, Tati, I got to bench, I need to bench, or I need to daven mincha, I tell them, don't say you need to, you got to, say you want to. You want to bench. You want to go daven mincha. Al tas tfilos chakeva. Don't make your tefillah kamasui, the Mishnah says. So why does Rashi say, referring to the Malachim, that the Malach said, Sorach ani loimer shira? Why doesn't it say, the Malach say, I want to say shira? What's the obvious answer? The Malach doesn't have Bechira. So Malach can't say, I want to. The Malach says, I need him. That's my job. We can transcend the Malachim by wanting to daven. I want to daven. That's a big thing. That's an umnus. I want to daven. I want to talk to Hashem. As a matter of fact, Rav Miller asks, what does it mean, Lo Yamesim Hallelujah? It's not true. The Mesim do say Shira. Tzadikim Yoishim Atraseim Roshayim. What do you mean? But he says what it means is that they don't daven with Bechira. Rav Miller says, why do we say nowadays, V'nemon Ato L'Achi Yois Mesim, Baruch Ato Hashem Mechaya Mesim? We'll do it at Tchias HaMesim. Why are we doing it now? Because he said at Tchias HaMesim, we won't have the luxury of Bechira. Now we have Bechira, now we have free will. So therefore, one of the umnis of davening that makes our davening, it transcends it to more than the malachim, is when we want to daven. Not just we have to daven. I have to. It's almost as my Kriyishma. I have to daven. I didn't daven mincha yet. I'll go mincha mar. I'll knock them both off. No, I want to daven. Now but that's not the highest madreg. There's more than that. More than that. What's more than that? It's something that we say kedusha and musaf. Mimkaimo yifem berachamim. From his place, he turns with mercy. V'yachaynam hamayachadim shemai. And he shows favor to the nation that declares his name unique. Erev avoiker b'chol yom tamid. In the evening and the morning, perpetually. Pamayim, twice. Ba'ava. With love, shma'im. It's one thing to want to daven, and it's another thing to daven with love. Whoa! Talk about an umnus. To daven with love. So my Rebbetzin Shoshi, he told us she said it would seem to be a very good exercise to think of things that we feel love to Hashem for. It says about Leah, she did this. She called Yehuda because she had a fourth child. And she knew b'nedvua, there'll be 12 shvatim. There's 4 wives, so each wife is entitled to 3. She got 4, that means she got more than other people. Hapam Odes Hashem. That's something to have a special love to Hashem for. He gave me something special. So you look around, Most people have 5 children, 6 children. A person has more children. How? I have somebody in my shul. They were sitting on the stoop of their house with 8 of their children. And Ramilla passed them by and said to them, you know, you're multi-millionaires. Multi-millionaires. Have more. Other people, they have their health. A lot of people, they're suffering from diabetes, from rheumatism, fibromyalgia, all kinds of things, arthritis, all kinds of problems, gout. It's a person who's healthy. It's something to really love Hashem for. To daven. So it's one thing to daven not just because I need to, or because I want to. You have to know, we were talking about an umnus. It says, Karav Hashem l'chol karav. Hashem is close to those that call to Him. L'chol asher yikra'uhu ve'emes. To those that call Him in truth. What does it mean, call Him in truth? So you'll say, well, it means I'm not faking. It means I believe in God. Duh. Sitting and davening every day, I hope you believe in God. It's not what it means. It means it means you call to Him in truth and not in need. Some people, they only really daven when they're in need. Oh, Hashem, please let this test be nothing. Please, Hashem. All of a sudden, he's davening with kavanah. We should never get any shrekin. Never get any scares. I tell my Tillim group all the time, it's a wonderful thing you're doing. You're coming, saying Tillim without needing to say Tillim. That's Yekrova MS. That's calling in truth, not in need. Of course, it's okay to call in need. Who should return to if not to Hashem? But to daven before. And this brings us to the next step. And that step is to daven in anticipation. When Eov had all of his suffering, Eov had 3 special friends. When Eov had all of his suffering, his friends asked, Hayaroch shuacha sheloi batzar? Did you arrange your prayers before you had trouble? Gemara in Gemara in Masechtas Masechtas Brachas says, Al zois yispal kol chosid le'es mitzay. For this, every pious person should pray towards the time of finding. The Gemara says mitzay means different things. One of the things it means is a person should pray to find their mate, because mitzay is matzah isha matzah tay. So it means that already a boy is bar mitzvah, a girl is bas mitzvah, they already should pray. Parents should already pray early. There are different pshatim in the Gemara. One pshat in the Gemara is that It means to pray for Torah success. Already at a young age, to pray for Torah success. Parents should pray for their children's Torah success. Because it says, Ki chayim heim l'motzeim. Then the Gemara says a person should even pray that when they die, everything should be peaceful. They shouldn't die a bad death. It says, and then the Gemara says, pray even that the last clod of earth that goes on their grave should be peaceful. It shouldn't die and be buried on a day of a blizzard. They can't get a minion to go to the Beis HaKvaros. It shouldn't die where there's going to be a threat that they have to do an autopsy or in an accident and the body shouldn't be recovered. The miracle that happened to this young Rebbe who died of Kiddush Hashem, Mamish, throughout the whole world, saving somebody's life, should be found to go to Kfurus Yisrael. Now this is an umnis of daven, because you see, we don't think this way. Most of us daven as reactionaries. We daven when there's a problem. Oh, Hashem, help me get my son to yeshiva. They don't want to accept him. Help me that the boss shouldn't fire me. He's giving me trouble. A person should pray in anticipation. A person should pray not to get sick. A person should pray that a wife or a husband should not have a change of feelings. Sometimes people get older. They go through different physical changes. And they become different people. Pray that a spouse shouldn't change. Pray that a spouse shouldn't be influenced by other people. All of these things are important. Al zois yispal kol chosid la'is mitzay. Wow. It's very late. We haven't finished the shir. It's Hashem. We'll continue next week. But we learned a lot of steps. If we could be umnis in our davening, it'll greatly better the quality of our lives.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.